The rig was quiet that night, save for the ever-present hum of machinery and the occasional howl of the wind. Daniel stood in the crew lounge, his fingers tapping a nervous rhythm against his coffee mug. The stale bitterness of the drink lingered on his tongue, but he barely noticed. His mind was elsewhere. It had been 3 days since he'd arrived, and he was starting to settle into the rhythm of life on the rig. The long shifts, the clanging of metal, the briny air, all of it was becoming familiar. But the feeling of being watched hadn't left him. A few crew members sat scattered around the lounge, engrossed in their own activities. Grayson and his friend Kiefer were playing cards, their banter subdued. A young engineer named Leah was flipping through a dog-eared paperback, her lips moving silently as she read. No one spoke much. The radio crackled suddenly, its static cutting through the room. Everyone froze. It was unusual for the radio to break the silence during the night shift unless something was wrong. Control to all crew. We're picking up an intermittent signal. Possible interference or equipment failure. Stand by for updates.
Signal, out here, what are we supposed to do? Call the Coast Guard?
It could be important.
Yeah, sure, probably some fishing boat's broken radio. Wake me when it's something worth worrying about.
But Daniel wasn't so dismissive. A signal this far out in the North Sea was strange. There weren't many vessels that came this way, unless they had a reason. He glanced at Leah, who had put down her book and was staring at the radio, as if expecting it to crackle back to life.
You think it's interference?
Could be, but
But what?
it doesn't sound like interference. Interference is erratic. This sounded deliberate.
Great, ghost stories already, let me guess, it's the Maw of Hel calling.
The name sent a chill through the room, silencing whatever retort Leah had been about to make. Grayson smirked at their reactions, clearly enjoying himself.
You guys ever hear the stories about the rig built too close to the Maw? Some say it's cursed, crew goes missing, equipment malfunctions. Weird things start happening.
Grayson's smirk faded, and he muttered something under his breath, but he didn't continue. The radio crackled again, this time followed by a series of faint clicks and whines. Daniel frowned, stepping closer to the console. The sounds were uneven, almost rhythmic, like a pattern trying to form itself. Dorian, S1, Media Group, patterned sound waves on a monitor in an offshore oil rig control room, close-up of a person's hand stopping audio equipment at its stock at distribute_equally. That's enough. Control to all crew. We've isolated the signal. It's unusual, possibly originating from the seabed. The room fell deathly silent.
The seabed?
Daniel's grip tightened on his mug. He could feel the collective unease spreading through the room like a cold wind.
I don't like this.
Daniel turned to Leah.
What's at the seabed in this area?
Leah hesitated.
Nothing. At least nothing we've ever been told about.
The radio clicked off, leaving only static behind. In the silence that followed, the groan of the rig's structure felt louder than ever. Daniel set his mug down, his mind racing. Whatever the signal was, it wasn't ordinary, and he had the sinking feeling that it was only the beginning.